On December 19, 2019, a woman in rural Vermont woke up screaming. Her husband found her staring at the foot of their bed, where a gingerbread cookie sat upright against the wall. She swore she had placed it under the mattress the night before. 3 days later, she disappeared. Her case remains unsolved. Christmas, a time for joy, family, and tradition. But buried beneath the tinsel and carols are rituals that were never meant to be played. Games passed down through whispers, through anonymous posts on forgotten forums, through handwritten notes left in second-hand books. These aren't games designed for fun. They're invitations. And tonight, you're going to learn why some invitations should never be accepted. What you're about to hear has been documented across multiple countries, spanning decades. The patterns are too consistent to ignore. The consequences too real to dismiss. Christmas Eve. The tree lights cast dancing shadows across your living room. Everyone's asleep. You've wrapped all the presents, arranged them carefully beneath the branches. But there's one box that doesn't belong. One that you placed there deliberately. Empty. Wrapped in plain paper with no tag, no name, nothing to identify who it's for. The rules are simple. Place the empty box under your tree before midnight on Christmas Eve. Then wait. At exactly 12 a.m., something will notice it. Something that watches homes on this particular night, searching for offerings left in the dark. If you hear a knock at your door after midnight, stay silent. If you hear a voice, soft and polite, asking, "Is it for me?" do not answer. Because opening that door isn't just letting someone in. It's accepting a transaction you cannot undo. In 2015, a family in Ohio tried this. The father thought it would be a fun dare, something to film and laugh about later. At 12:03 a.m., the knocking started. Slow, deliberate. 3 taps, then silence. 3 more taps. His wife begged him not to open it. But curiosity won. He unlocked the door, pulled it open to an empty porch. Nothing there. Just winter air and darkness. He closed the door, laughing nervously. Told his wife she'd been right to worry over nothing. But when they walked back to the living room, the empty box was gone. In its place sat a new gift, perfectly wrapped in paper they'd never seen before. Victorian patterns, old-fashioned ribbon tied in an elaborate bow. His wife wouldn't let him open it. They threw it away, box and all, drove it to a dumpster 5 miles from their house. When they returned home, it was sitting under their tree again, waiting. They moved out 3 days later. The house has remained empty ever since. Sometimes, neighbors report seeing lights in the windows on Christmas Eve. The sound of paper tearing. Laughter that doesn't sound quite human. The gift is still waiting to be opened. Building a snowman is childhood magic. 3 spheres of packed snow, stick arms, a carrot nose, stones for eyes. Innocent, harmless, unless you make one mistake, unless you give it a name. The ritual is unintentional for most people. A parent asks their child what they want to call their creation. The child picks something simple. Frosty, Mr. Snowy, whatever comes to mind. But in certain conditions, on certain nights when the temperature drops below a specific threshold and the air feels too still, that name becomes a beacon. You'll be inside, warming up with hot chocolate when you hear it. Your name, called from outside. Not the snowman's name. Yours, clear as a bell, cutting through the winter silence. Sounds like someone you know. A voice that's almost right, almost familiar, but with something hollow underneath. The compulsion to check is overwhelming. To look out the window, to step onto the porch, to see who's calling you in the cold. But here's what they don't tell you in the stories that circulate online. The snowman isn't trying to trick you for fun. He's trying to take your warmth. The heat that keeps you alive. Because once you gave it a name, you gave it awareness. You made it want what it doesn't have. A teenager in Minnesota learned this in 2018. She built a snowman with her younger brother, called it Sam. That night, while studying for exams, she heard her name. Once, twice, 3 times. Each time closer to the window. She looked out, saw the snowman standing in the same position they'd left it. But its head had turned. The stones they'd placed for eyes were now facing the house. She went inside her room, locked the door, buried her head under pillows. When dawn came, the snowman had collapsed into a formless pile. But in the center, pressed into the snow, was a perfect impression of a hand. Too large to be her brother's. Too detailed to be accidental. The fingers were spread wide, reaching upward, like something had tried to claw its way out. She refuses to build snowmen anymore. Even photographs of them make her hands shake. Every culture has myths about what watches us during winter. In some traditions, it's benevolent, bringing gifts and good fortune. In others, it's ancient and hungry. The silent stocking is how you call to the second kind. Hang an empty Christmas stocking on your window on the night of December 24th. Not inside your home, but outside, facing the winter dark. The rule is specific. It must be red, it must be empty, and it must be visible from the street. Then you wait. If the winter spirit accepts your offering, the stocking will be filled by morning. Small trinkets, coins, sometimes candies that taste faintly of ice. But if you wake to find the stocking turned inside out, still hanging but inverted, you've made a critical error. You didn't offer. You asked. And now, instead of receiving, you're expected to give. What does it want? That depends on what it thinks you can spare. For some, it's warmth. Their homes grow inexplicably cold, heaters failing, frost forming on interior walls. For others, it's sound. Their voices weaken, words becoming whispers, until eventually silence is all they have left. And for an unlucky few, it's memory. They forget names, faces, the feeling of joy attached to the season. Christmas becomes empty, a hollow ritual they perform without understanding why. There's a documented case from Scotland in 2012. A woman hung the stocking as a joke, something she'd read about on a paranormal forum. When she woke, the stocking was inside out, swaying slightly despite her window being closed. She took it down immediately, threw it in the trash. But the damage was done. Over the next year, her house grew colder. Not physically, but emotionally. Her family stopped visiting. Friends drifted away. Conversations felt strained, forced. By the following Christmas, she was alone. The doctors called it depression, seasonal affective disorder. But she knew better. She'd invited something in, and it had taken the only thing that mattered: connection. The worst part? She still hangs stockings every year. Empty ones. On her window. Facing out. Because once the ritual starts, stopping feels impossible. Gingerbread men are everywhere during Christmas. Store displays, holiday parties, grinning cookie faces decorated with icing smiles. They're meant to be eaten, crushed between teeth, swallowed and forgotten. But there's a version of this tradition that inverts the relationship, where you don't consume the gingerbread man, where it consumes you. Take a gingerbread cookie, freshly baked if possible. On the back, write your full name in icing or edible marker. Then place it under your bed before you sleep. The rule is absolute. You cannot look at it until morning. No checking. No peeking. You must trust that it stays where you left it. If, when you wake, the cookie has moved even slightly, you've activated something that folklore calls the risen. The gingerbread man stood up during the night, pulled itself free from the crumbs and sugar holding it together. And now it's searching, hunting, trying to find the person whose name gave it purpose. This isn't metaphorical. People report finding tiny footprints in flour they don't remember spilling, bite marks on furniture at ankle height, the smell of cinnamon and molasses in rooms that should be empty. Worst are the sightings, brief glimpses in peripheral vision of something small and brown skittering across floors, always moving toward whoever performed the ritual. A college student in Portland tried this in 2020, posted about it on social media as a creepy experiment. The next morning, the cookie was gone entirely. Not eaten, not crumbled, just absent. She laughed it off, assumed her roommate had thrown it away. But 3 nights later, she woke to pressure on her chest. Something small and hard pressing against her ribs, where her heart beat underneath. She turned on the light. Nothing there. But when she lifted her shirt, there was a mark. A burn shaped exactly like a gingerbread man, seared into her skin just above her heart. It faded after a week, but she swears she can still feel it sometimes. A coldness, a weight, The sensation of something small and relentless trying to burrow deeper. She moved apartments, changed universities, but every December, without fail, she smells gingerbread. And somewhere in a place she can't see, something made of spice and malice remembers her name. Christmas carols are designed to bring people together. Voices joining in harmony, spreading joy through music and tradition. But sound has power, especially when reversed, especially when performed in specific conditions with specific intent. The caroler's call is the most dangerous ritual on this list because it requires almost nothing. Just your voice, just a doorway, just the willingness to sing a Christmas carol backwards while standing on your threshold after midnight. Why backwards? Because reversal has always been the language of summoning. Words spoken in the wrong direction open doors that face the wrong way. And when you sing into the winter night, something listens. Something that's been waiting for an invitation. You'll know it worked if you hear a second voice join yours. Harmonizing perfectly. Matching pitch and rhythm despite the unnatural direction of the melody. The only rule that matters is this: do not turn around. Do not look at what's singing behind you. Finish the carol, step inside, close your door. Never acknowledge what you've called. But humans are curious creatures. We turn around. We always turn around. In 2017, 2 teenagers in Wales filmed themselves attempting this. The video is still online, though most platforms keep taking it down. You can hear them singing, giggling nervously. Then a third voice joins in. Lower. Resonant. The kind of voice that shouldn't exist outside a cathedral. One of the teenagers turns, the camera swinging wildly. The footage cuts to static. They were found the next morning, both unconscious in the snow 10 feet from the door. Hypothermia, the doctors said. But neither could explain why they'd gone outside. Neither remembered filming anything. And when police reviewed the video, all they heard was silence. Just 2 teenagers standing in the cold, mouths moving, no sound emerging. But people who knew them noticed changes. The way they both stopped singing. Not just Christmas carols. All music. The way they'd flinch at harmonies, cover their ears during church services. And every year, on the anniversary of that night, neighbors report hearing singing from both their homes. Beautiful. Haunting. Imperfect, impossible harmony. No one's ever been able to identify the third voice. These rituals share a common thread. They take something innocent, something designed for celebration, and twist it into an invitation. An opening. A way for things that shouldn't exist to reach across and touch our world, if only for a moment. Are they real? That's the question everyone asks. And maybe the answer doesn't matter. Because belief shapes reality more than we'd like to admit. Rituals work because we perform them. Because in the doing, we open ourselves to possibility. To consequence. This Christmas, when you're hanging stockings and building snowmen and singing carols, remember, not every tradition is meant to bring joy. Some are warnings. Instructions written in the language of folklore and fear. Reminders that winter is old and hungry and patient. And it's always listening.